on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 8:06, and we are all fired up and ready to blast through this 8 o'clock hour before we hand it off to Chris Plant. Coming up in 30 minutes, author Brad Thor will join us. His latest brand new summer thriller just released this week. It's called Deadfall. Always a great summer read and always a good conversation with Brad Thor. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Patrice Onwuka.
Happy.
As you know, Patrice, the truth
is out there.
That's where it is. And yesterday on Capitol Hill, we had a hearing about, what the kids used to call UFOs. Now they're UAPs. Listen to this stunning testimony.
In your belief, is this flying Tic Tac, I mean, is it capable of being the product of any other nation on the earth?
No, like I said earlier, I think it defies current material science and the ability to develop that much propulsion. And I know there's been some physicists who have done calculations, which is beyond anything that we have.
Can we stop with the flying Tic Tac thing? It makes it sound way too benign and cute, okay? This is it sounds a little more menacing than that. Also, one other constant theme we heard during these UFO hearings yesterday was this.
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries.
Let me just be clear, not the biologics part, the News Nation part. News Nation has been sort of the tip of the spear on covering this story, including some exclusive coverage with one of these whistleblowers. And the Washington correspondent for News Nation, Joe Khalil, joins us now. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Hey, great to be with you. Good morning.
So, good morning to you. So, could you sort of walk us through sort of the big picture of yesterday's hearings? Was anything was there an aha moment? Was anything kind of resolved? What's your biggest takeaway on what we learned?
So if you've been sort of following the story, there are certainly some people that are like more plugged into the, UFO news, UAP news. None of what we heard yesterday was exactly new, but the fact that all of it was said under oath in a congressional hearing setting was pretty historic. I mean, for the first time. And a couple years ago, I think a lot of these claims that were made yesterday in this hearing would have been laughed at in the halls of Congress. But, that's not what we saw. I mean, members of Congress, both sides of the aisle, everyone on that committee, and these are very serious members, asked very serious questions, took it seriously. And you had claims like you just heard that, the claim is that the government has in its possession a number of crashed UAPs, UFOs, that there has been this program to try to reverse engineer some of the technology, and that just given the actual pilots who have seen these things, and we're not talking about, random claims from crazy people that are made up, but we're talking about military pilots who are flying, who not only see them with their own eyes, but whose stories are now backed up by video, by radar. Military acknowledges these incidents actually happened. These pilots, sharing their stories, described how what they saw could not have been, as far as they understand it, made by humans because they seem to defy the laws of physics as we know them. And so, in other words, pilots describe seeing, these things move up and down and then stop and then hover in ways that like our planes are not capable of, and move at speeds that would kill a human pilot if it was actually in those craft. So a lot of, just really amazing things to hear in a congressional hearing.
Well, Joe, kudos to News Nation and to you for your coverage, for bringing this from a periphery conspiracy theory issue to something that's mainstream and in the halls of Congress. Seriously, just to go back to the three gentlemen that testified yesterday, three retired military veterans. I think what they lend so much credence, because why in the world would these retirees stake their entire career, their reputation, on claims that they know to be false or just made up? So, I think that lends a lot of credibility to yesterday's hearing and to the idea. I know Larry is not bought in, but I certainly am. What are you expecting to happen next, though?
Yeah. I got to say, too, I'm very skeptical about many of the claims we hear around these issues. But some of them at this point are kind of undeniable. And I mean, the Pentagon has come out and acknowledged some of these stories and said, yeah, something was flying. Yes, we don't know what it was. It is on our radar. So it's like, these are things that now some of these things we sort of have to accept because the evidence shows it. So next, I think what we're going to see moving forward are more hearings. The chairman of the Oversight Committee, James Comer, told me yesterday that there are going to be more hearings, likely field hearings. So they may not be in Washington exactly. They may be, near certain military bases or what have you. So I think that's coming next. There's also, we heard from another member of Congress, the possibility that Congress creates what's called a select committee on UAPs, meaning they would create an entire team, Republicans and Democrats, just dedicated to this issue to continue to hold hearings. And I think the last thing they're going to hear is one of the big whistleblowers who came forward to NewsNation and testified yesterday, David Grush. They want to get him in what's known as a SCIF, which is, if you're not familiar, it is a private room in the Capitol where you can go over classified information. No phones allowed, no technology allowed in there. You got to check everything at the door. It would be just David Grush and then certain members of Congress, so he can talk about things he was not allowed to talk about yesterday in a public setting. He can do that in a private classified setting.
It's long been held, a belief by many people who are enthusiasts of this topic, that the federal government has known about this for decades, and they actually are taking advantage of this alien technology, sort of reverse engineering it for our own military and technological needs. Was any of that part of the testimony yesterday?
Yeah, it was. David Grush was asked, directly. And to be clear, these three witnesses, two military pilots, and then him, an Air Force intel officer, he's the only one who does not have firsthand knowledge. So in other words, he said, based on interviews I've done with 45 or 50 people, yes, he believes there is this program where the U.S. has recovered some of these, whatever was flying in the skies that we've seen on our radar, and that there has been efforts by the military and private companies to reverse engineer. Right. But again, he was never, in the rooms. But I thought it was really interesting. He said not only, does he confirm, yes, this is happening, but he said he knows where these things are being held and done. And he claims he gave that information to the Inspector General. Right. And members of Congress asked him, well, can you tell us right now where they are? And he said, not in this hearing, but certainly in a private setting. In other words, that SCIF. Yeah. He said, I'll ready to hand that information over. My question was, why to Congress, if he gives you a location, why can't you just GPS it and go there and confirm this and yes or no and just, close the argument altogether?
Question.
It may be a little more complicated than that if these are like military bases or whatever, but presumably you can confirm that or shut it down, if someone's got a location.
Real fast, one other jarring thing that really sort of caught my eye yesterday, sitting in the front row just off center from the witnesses, was former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper. Now, last time I saw James Clapper in Congress, he was lying about the surveillance state, but that's another story. What was he doing? That was sort of a weird thing that the former DNI was there considering the sensitivity of this issue. That almost lends credibility, wouldn't you think?
I'm going to tell you something even weirder than James Clapper being there. That was not James Clapper. Everybody.
Oh, wait, what? Are you serious?
Like him.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it looked just like him. And we were all – I saw him walk in, and we all thought the same thing. My bureau chief, everyone said, is that Clapper? I said, I don't know. It looks like him. So I walked right up to him. As you get closer, you realize it's not him. It's just a man who looks a lot like him.
Oh,
but
gosh.
I actually talked to that guy. He's a very nice man. His name is Ed Stanton. He was there.
Okay. Well, thank you. I don't want to peddle it. I'm so sorry. Yeah. I saw the picture. I'm sorry. That guy is okay. That's an alien disguised as James Clapper. It's the only explanation. This has got Men in Black written all over it. All right. Well, thank you for clearing that up, Ed Stanton. Boy, if you're gonna
no worries.
If you're gonna look like anyone, why would it be James Clapper? All right, Joe Khalil, News Nation. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Joe.
Of course.
Glad we
Good to
cleared
be
that
with
up.
you.
I hate doing that. I don't want to peddle misinformation. Hopefully,
But what if it is an alien dressed up Larry, now
Yes.
you're becoming a believer.
Exactly. I don't want to peddle misinformation, so let's just assume it's an alien disguised as James Clapper. That's better. 8:17. Let's get straight to Jamie Whitten in the hit.